Green one, Old Mutual, founded in 1845, that's a while ago, in Cape Town. Long-term global savings, insurance and investment giant. Headquartered in London, but its critical operations are here in South Africa. It's expanded internationally. We'll talk about that in a minute. The market cap, if you take the London listing and you gross it up pounds to rands, about 160 billion rand. Assets under management, I think that figure may be slightly old. I'm seeing $380 billion, but I suspect it's in fact larger because, of course, markets have done better in recent periods. Price to earnings ratio of 22.5, dividend yield of 2.8. Viv, there's the share chart behind us.
Yeah.
Clearly in 0809 it was in very, very difficult circumstances with all the problems then, difficulties with being underfunded in terms of some of its liabilities. But since then, a much more happy picture. People have made good money being along this one, huh?
Yeah, and back in 2008, I think it went below 5 rands a share. And in fact, we bought some at that point in time, and it was the stupidest, profitable trade we made because we bought at 5, sold at about 6 some change, and thought we made some money, and it's at 35 a few years later.
Yeah.
But the issue back in 2008 was the US business, which has been a bit of a anchor on the company for a while.
It's the old Sage Life business, which Louis Schill built up, and then they bought.
Yeah.
And you're right, it had sort of Bermuda-based stuff. It had asset management in the US, but it also had some policyholders' liabilities out of the Cayman Islands.
To give an idea, I think back here when we were trading about 7 rands a share, people were saying that the market, the valuation on the South African business alone, excluding the international operations, was above 12 rands a share. So there was a huge negative effect from those operations in the US. There was talk about basically selling off those operations, listing it separately, etc., etc. But over time, what we have found is actually that they've managed to turn that business around. They've actually, got the US business back on track. It seems to be. So they take away that anchor and made it to a profitable asset. They are looking to expand into Africa at the moment. They have a large little Africa, called this kitty, basically looking for acquisitions in the continent.
I think they did something in Ghana, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They've added on countries, the big ones around the region.
Yes, and they have actually a fund available for that. They have talked about it a number of times. And this actually allowed the share to come back quite nicely because, like I said, back here we're looking at 14 on South Africa alone.
Yeah.
The South African business has done well, and the other parts have come back as well.
So if you talk about the business down here, it's obviously very strong. It's got substantial presence in all of those markets. It continues now to be seen in London as an emerging market financial services giant with the scope to get much bigger in a continent like Africa with 1 billion people largely uninsured. That all sounds good and well. What about the international operations? Do you expect more restructuring? I guess what I'm trying to get at is, do you expect these guys to narrow and focus on the emerging markets and Africa story, or are they going to try and play in the first division with the global insurers like Allianz and AXA and the likes?
The story seemed to have been a few years back that they were going to basically focus on Africa, etc., and they were going to, like I said, sell off the US division. But now they seem a bit more hesitant about that particular area. So I don't know if they are going to do that easy yet, but the focus has definitely changed from the past, which is primarily first world. Now it's going primarily towards developing world.
Another thing worth pointing out, 50% of Nedbank, right?
Yes.
So Nedbank's got a similar share chart to this one.
Yeah.
So that's also created an uplift. Some talk, as ever, that might be, for sale. They might sell it to HSBC or Standard Chartered, but nothing on that score lately. So it suggests that Old Mutual just want to keep it, right?
Yeah, there was actually Standard Chartered, I believe there was actually a case in which there was some due diligence done, etc., before they had to walk away due to some kind of capital requirements, etc.
Julian Roberts, management team. Market seems to have warmed up to them as the share price has recovered.
A success always breeds your favor. But look, I think basically they were caught off balance as most of the world was in 2008. The financial sector in the developed world basically fell apart. South Africa did reasonably well. We haven't experienced the full collapse that they had in the US, for instance. We had major institutions in trouble, and that was what caused the problem there. I think since then they've recovered, they've refocused their attention, and so like other sectors we've seen, they're looking at Africa, as you mentioned, 6.5% growth rates, considered to be the next 1 billion people coming out of poverty.
Yeah.
These factors are going to be long-term, very profitable for a company that can take advantage of it.
Okay, so where are you leading to with regard to the stock price valuation? You reckon this is a hot one?
It's expensive, but it's hot.
Okay, I'm going to go with not hot. I'm feeling bullish about other stocks and not so bullish about the insurance sector tonight.